I've always said being a 49ers fan isn't a hobby. It's a religion. Every Sunday, I'd paint my face red and gold, fire up the grill, and tailgate until my voice was gone. So when my team finally clawed its way back to the Super Bowl after years of heartbreak, it felt like destiny. Like life was finally giving me that one perfect weekend I dreamed about since I was a kid. At the time, I was working at this consulting firm in San Francisco, one of those places where people wear expensive smiles and stab you in the back with designer pens. I handled a handful of clients, but there was one guy in particular I clicked with right away. Let's call him Tom. Tom was sharp, confident, and weirdly down-to-earth for someone who signed checks with more zeros than I'd ever see in my lifetime. We got along, really got along. Dinner after meetings, beers after deadlines, sports talk in between. He knew I bled red and gold. One night after we wrapped up a project, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You know, I might have something special for you next season if the Niners make it." I laughed, thinking he meant some corporate merch or maybe a tailgate invite. I had no idea how serious he was. A few months later, the Niners did it. They were going to the damn Super Bowl. I was hyped like a teenager again. The city felt electric. Every billboard screaming our colors, every bar packed with believers. Work got crazy around that time, as it always does when you're juggling clients and trying not to drown in deadlines. Somewhere in that chaos, Tom had apparently done something incredible, something I wouldn't find out about until much later. He'd pulled a few strings and gotten 2 company seats, 30-yard line, Super Bowl, once-in-a-lifetime kind of seats, and told the senior partner on my account, "A man I'll call Richard to pass them along to me as a thank you gift, except..." I never got them. Game day came and went. The Niners lost, a brutal punch to the gut, but that's sports. I watched the whole thing from my apartment couch, clutching a beer like it was a lifeline, never imagining I was supposed to be there right in that stadium. A week later, Tom and I met for drinks downtown like usual. He clinked his glass against mine and grinned. "Tough loss, man. But hey, and how was the game? Those seats were insane, right?" I blinked, confused. "What game?" He frowned. "The Super Bowl! Wait, don't tell me you didn't go?" I laughed awkwardly, thinking he was joking. "Tom, I didn't have tickets to the Super Bowl. Believe me, if I did, I wouldn't have been sitting on my damn couch." The look on his face changed instantly, from casual amusement to pure shock. He set his drink down slowly. "I gave 2 tickets to Richard to surprise you. Are you telling me you never got them?" For a second, I thought maybe he was messing with me. But he wasn't. His tone was serious. I felt this cold wave of realization crawl up my neck. He stared at me like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "That's impossible." I handed them to him personally. My heart started pounding. I didn't know what to say. I managed a weak, "Let me look into it." He nodded, tight-lipped. "Yeah, do that. And get back to me." The next week at the office, I started quietly asking questions. Nothing direct, just little feelers. The kind of whispers you drop at the coffee machine. That's when one of the secretaries, a sweet woman who'd been there forever, pulled me aside. She looked nervous, like she wasn't sure if she should tell me. "Hey, I probably shouldn't say this, but I think Richard gave those tickets to another client. Said it was a gift from the firm." For a moment, everything around me went silent. My stomach dropped. He stole them. The bastard actually took the tickets meant for me and gave them away to someone else to look good. I just stood there, stunned. Part of me wanted to march straight into his glass-walled office and tear into him. But another part, the smarter, colder part, told me to hold my ground. This wasn't just about tickets. This was about betrayal, about dignity, and if I played this right, he was going to pay for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined myself in those seats, the sound of the crowd, the red and gold confetti, my team fighting for glory. And then that image twisted into Richard's smug face, laughing behind a corporate smile. I needed a plan, but I didn't have to act alone. The client had already noticed, so I pulled out my phone and sent Tom a text. "Hey man, Thanks again for thinking of me with those seats. It looks like they were given to another client from our firm. His reply came back instantly. 3 dots. Then, are you shitting me? Another message followed. Pretend I never told you. Let me handle this, I exhaled, half relieved, half terrified. Whatever he was planning, I just knew it wasn't going to end quietly. The following days were a blur. Richard strutted around the office like nothing happened, laughing too loud, talking too big, the kind of guy who thought charm could cover rot. Every time I saw him, my jaw clenched. Then one afternoon, I got an email. Subject, client meeting in person. Note, Richard and M.E. to attend. I felt my pulse quicken. Tom had said to let him handle it, and now he wanted both of us in the same room. Something was coming. Something big, and Richard had no idea he was walking straight into a trap. When that meeting invite hit my inbox, I swear my heart skipped a beat. It looked routine on the surface, just another client visit, another round of PowerPoint slides and polite fake smiles. But I knew better. Tom had said he'd handle it. And Tom didn't play games. For the next few days, I pretended everything was normal. I answered Richard's dumb questions, sat through his endless bragging about business development, and forced a grin when he cracked his cheap jokes. Inside, though, I was boiling. I wanted to tell him I knew. I wanted to see his smug face crumble when he realized the walls were closing in. But I waited. Finally, travel day came. We were flying out to meet the client in person. Important strategy session, Richard said, puffing his chest like a rooster in a suit. He strutted through the airport with his usual confidence, barking into his phone, talking about high-value accounts and relationship building. I followed quietly, every step taking me closer to the moment I'd been waiting for. On the plane, he leaned over with that fake mentor tone. Listen, kid, just keep your part tight today. Let me do the talking. Big meetings like this are about presence, not detail. I nodded. Sure thing, Richard. It took everything in me not to laugh. When we landed, the city felt colder than I remembered, like even the air was holding its breath. We arrived at the client's headquarters early, all polished marble floors and glass walls. Tom's assistant greeted us warmly, but there was a certain sharpness behind her smile. She led us into a large conference room, the kind of room where deals are born, or die. The table was already set. Tom was there, of course, calm and collected in his navy suit, eyes like steel behind a polite grin. But there were others too, a few familiar faces from our previous meetings, and one woman I didn't recognize. She was maybe mid-30s, professional, confident, introduced as Stephanie, a VP from another department who'd be sitting in. Richard didn't suspect a thing. He gave her his usual over-charming handshake and said something like, "Always nice to meet another decision-maker. Love seeing women in leadership these days." She smiled sweetly. "You will too." I had to bite the inside of my cheek not to smirk. The meeting started off normal. Tom walked us through a few updates. Richard added his usual buzzwords: synergy, optimization, strategic alignment. I swear the guy couldn't form a sentence without sounding like a LinkedIn post. Then, about 10 minutes in, Tom leaned back and casually dropped the grenade. "Oh, before I forget, Richard, Stephanie actually sat near your team at the Super Bowl. Small world, right?" The words hit the air like thunder. My pulse spiked. Stephanie turned to me, smiling politely. "Oh, really? Did we meet there?" "I'm sorry if I forgot." I raised an eyebrow, playing dumb. "At the Super Bowl?" "I didn't go," Richard froze. His pen stopped moving mid-scribble. Tom tilted his head slightly, watching. "Wait," he said, feigning surprise. "You didn't go?" "Are you sure? Stephanie swore she saw you in our seats." I kept my voice calm. "No, I wasn't there." Now Richard was shifting in his chair. The color had drained from his face. Stephanie looked confused, or at least she pretended to. That's odd. "The people next to us said they were from your firm." Different client, though. I just assumed you'd be there since the tickets came from Tom. Tom turned his gaze on Richard. Cold. Precise. That's interesting. Because I specifically gave those tickets to you, Richard. For him. Silence. The kind that buzzes in your ears and makes time slow down. Richard started stammering. Oh, well, he couldn't make it, so he must have, given them away to someone else. He turned to me, desperate for a lifeline. I met his eyes, expression blank. Wait, you gave me tickets to the Super Bowl? I said to Tom, pretending to be just as confused. Tom's voice sharpened. Richard, those tickets were a personal thank you gift for my name. Are you telling me he never even saw them? Richard fumbled with his tie. There must have been some mix-up in the office, maybe someone else. A mix-up worth $10,000? Tom interrupted, his tone low, dangerous. Because that's what those seats resell for. The entire room went dead quiet. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Stephanie leaned back, crossing her arms. So, just to clarify, our company gave valuable Super Bowl tickets meant for your employee to someone else in a completely unrelated industry? Richard swallowed hard. It's possible there was a misunderstanding. Tom leaned forward, locking eyes with him. Oh, there's no misunderstanding here, Richard. You took something that wasn't yours, you lied about it, and you embarrassed your firm, and me. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Tom slowly packed up his tablet and notebook, stood and said in a calm, deliberate voice, I think this meeting is over. My name, I owe you a proper thank you lunch. Stephanie, you're welcome to join. Richard. He paused, letting the silence burn. I'll be reevaluating our relationship. Please go home and expect to hear from us next week. Richard stammered. Wait, I can come to lunch. Stephanie cut him off. I don't think that's a good idea. Then she turned to the assistant by the door. Can you show Mr. Richard out, please? I swear, the look on his face as he walked out, pale, sweating, silent, was better than any touchdown I'd ever seen. As soon as the elevator doors closed behind him, the room exploded with laughter. Tom was grinning ear to ear, tears in his eyes. Stephanie leaned back, exhaling. Oh my God, did you see his face? Tom chuckled. Worth every penny. That's when he told me the truth. Stephanie wasn't actually a VP. She worked in another department. He drafted her to help pull off his little theater show. Genius. Pure. Vengeful genius. We went to lunch afterward at some fancy steakhouse nearby. Tom ordered the most expensive wine on the list, grinning like a man who'd just evened the score. He raised his glass. To justice. And to making sure assholes like Richard never get away with stealing from good people. I laughed, the tension finally leaving my body. Cheers to that. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed. A message from Richard. We need to talk. Please cover for the firm. I'll explain when you're back. Tom saw my expression and smirked. Text him in a couple hours, he said, slicing into his steak. Tell him to expect an invoice for the tickets. Resale value, not face. Plus lunch, he winked. Let him sweat a little first. And that's exactly what I did. 2 hours later, I sent the message. Richard, client expects reimbursement for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets and lunch. Also expects a personal apology to me and a formal one to the company. He'll only deal with me or another partner moving forward. There was no reply, just silence, but word spread fast. Within a week, the entire firm knew what happened. The partners called a meeting. Richard tried to spin some story about a communication mishap, but no one was buying it. He lost the client, his credibility, and his profit share. And as poetic justice, the partners made him personally pay the invoice back, over 10 grand, straight from his own salary. I came out looking like the guy who handled a disaster with grace. The victim who kept the client, the employee who stayed professional through betrayal, and Richard, he looked like what he was, a thief in a suit. But here's the thing. Even after all that, even after the laughter, the stake, the justice, I still couldn't shake the sting. Those tickets were mine. Those seats, 30-yard line, my team in the Super Bowl, were mine, and no amount of revenge could give me that back. Still, it felt damn good watching karma score one for my side. The office was never the same after that meeting. For a week or two, I felt like a ghost walking through a battlefield, people whispering, pausing mid-conversation when I walked by, shooting me those "I heard what happened" looks. It wasn't hostility. It was curiosity, shock, maybe even respect. Because in the hierarchy of consulting firms, partners like Richard weren't supposed to fall, but he did. Hard. Word spread faster than wildfire. Every water cooler conversation ended with a punchline about Super Bowl seats. Every sarcastic comment about bonus perks landed like another nail in his coffin. I tried to stay neutral, to act like I had no part in any of it. But deep down, I was still reeling, not from guilt, but from disbelief. The man had robbed me blind, right under my nose, and smiled through it. And now somehow I was the one who came out clean. A few days later, Richard tried to talk to me. He caught me by the elevators, face pale and sweaty, tie a little crooked, a man who'd finally realized the empire he'd built on ego was crumbling. "Listen," he said, forcing a smile. "We should just put this behind us." The client overreacted. "I'm sure if you help me smooth things over, we can—" I didn't let him finish. "You stole from me, Richard." He blinked, caught off guard by how calm I sounded. "You took something that wasn't yours. And you didn't just screw me, you embarrassed the firm. So no, I'm not smoothing anything over." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The elevator dinged. I stepped in, hit my floor, and didn't look back. The doors closed on his reflection, a shell of the man he'd pretended to be. In the weeks that followed, I tried to get back to normal, client calls, proposals, late-night coffee runs. But something had shifted inside me. Every meeting felt hollow. Every handshake fake. I'd seen behind the curtain now, seen how quickly loyalty turned to betrayal when money or pride got involved. The partners tried to do damage control, but the firm's reputation had taken a hit. Losing Tom's account hurt, financially and publicly. And yet, the irony was, they treated me like some kind of hero. Emails poured in from the higher-ups. "Great job maintaining professionalism. Proud of how you handled yourself," that kind of corporate nonsense. But all I could think about was how easily it all could have gone the other way. If Tom hadn't caught it, if I'd spoken up too soon, I'd be the one out the door instead of Richard. That thought haunted me. One Friday afternoon, I got a call from Tom. I hadn't heard from him since the whole showdown, and his name lighting up my phone made my stomach twist. "Hey, man," he said, voice light as ever. "You free for a beer?" "Always," I said. We met at this old bar downtown, the kind with sticky tables, football jerseys on the walls, and cheap wings that taste better than they have any right to. He looked relaxed, in that confident way successful people do when they've already won the day. "So," he said, raising his glass, "how's the circus?" I chuckled. "Quieter now that the clown's gone." He laughed, shaking his head. "You know, I've dealt with a lot of people in this business. Most of them are snakes in suits. But you kept your cool. That's rare." "Thanks," I said. "I just didn't want to make it worse." He nodded. "And that's why I wanted to talk to you. I think you're better than that place, man. You've got integrity, something you can't teach. So if you ever want to make a move, let me know. I've got friends who'd kill to have someone like you." It hit me then, that I'd been waiting to hear something like that. Validation. Freedom. I didn't say yes right away, but the seed was planted. Over the next couple months, I started quietly looking around, taking interviews, exploring options. And every time I'd sit across from some new manager or executive, I'd remember what it felt like to be underestimated. To be the guy whose loyalty was mistaken for weakness. One morning, I walked into the office early, before anyone else arrived. I stood by the window overlooking the city, the skyline glowing in soft golden light. I thought about everything that had happened. The tickets, the lies, the look on Richard's face when his own greed swallowed him whole. And I realized something. I didn't owe this place anything anymore. So I walked to my desk, drafted my resignation letter, and hit send. No dramatic exit, no speech. Just quiet closure. A few weeks later, I started fresh at a new firm. Smaller, smarter, cleaner. One of Tom's contacts had set it up, and from day one, it just felt right. The kind of place where people actually looked you in the eye when they talked to you. The best part? My first big client turned out to be Tom himself. When I walked into his office for that first meeting under the new banner, he grinned. Told you I'd find a way to work with you again. And just like that, it felt like all the mess, all the betrayal, all the late nights wondering if I'd made the right call. It finally made sense. Months went by. Work was good. Life was better. But every time Super Bowl season rolled around, that old ache would return. The memory of what I'd missed. Not just the game, but the moment. The story I should have lived. One night, I was sitting on my couch, watching the highlights on TV, when I got a text from Tom. If the Niners make it this year, I'm taking you with me. No partners, no middlemen, just us. I laughed, shaking my head. You serious? Dead serious. I still owe you that experience. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something warm replace the bitterness. Hope. Maybe the past had taken one Super Bowl from me. But life had a funny way of giving back when you least expected it. But as it turned out, life wasn't done surprising me yet. Because just when everything finally felt perfect, the past found a way to knock on my door again. It's funny how peace never lasts as long as you think it will. I'd been at my new firm for nearly a year. Life was good, simple, steady, even happy. My mornings started with coffee instead of chaos. My coworkers actually smiled at each other. And for once, I didn't wake up dreading emails. Then one Thursday afternoon, as I was wrapping up a proposal, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally I ignore those. But something, call it instinct, call it fate, made me answer. Hello? Silence for a moment. Then a voice I hadn't heard in months. It's Richard. For a second, I didn't even breathe. The sound of his name alone brought back everything. The betrayal, the humiliation, the fire I'd spent months putting out. What do you want? I asked flatly. He sighed, the sound tired and heavy. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need your help. I almost laughed. My help? The same guy who'd stolen my tickets, trashed my reputation, and nearly ended my career, calling me now asking for help. You've got to be kidding, I said. You expect me to believe this isn't some setup? It's not, he said quickly. Look, I messed up. I lost everything. The job, my marriage, the house. I've been trying to rebuild, but nobody will even take a meeting with me. The industry blacklisted me after that mess with Tom. There was a pause. I could hear the desperation in his voice. Shaky, broken, real. You've got connections now, he said quietly. If you could just put in a word, maybe someone would give me a chance. I didn't answer. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let karma finish the job it started. But another part of me, the part that used to believe in fairness, in decency, hesitated. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept replaying his words, the tone of his voice. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something raw, Humility, maybe, or fear. It made me uncomfortable because I didn't hate him anymore. I'd already won. My life had moved on, and his had fallen apart. But revenge doesn't always end clean. Sometimes it leaves a shadow, a reminder that closure isn't about watching someone fall. It's about deciding you don't need them to stay down. So the next morning, I called him back. "Meet me for coffee," I said. "One time? After that, we're even." He showed up late, looking older, thinner too. His hair had gone gray at the edges, his suit didn't fit right, and the confidence he used to wear like armor was gone. He smiled weakly. "Didn't think you'd actually come." "Neither did I said. We sat in silence for a bit. Just two men with too much history and too little left to say. Finally, he spoke. "I'm not going to make excuses. I was greedy. I thought I was untouchable, and I took advantage of someone who didn't deserve it. I wish I could undo it." I nodded slowly. "You can't." He lowered his eyes. "Yeah, I know." For a long moment, we just sat there. No tension, no bitterness. Just the quiet hum of a coffee shop full of people who had no idea they were watching a redemption story unfold. Then I said the one thing I hadn't planned to. "I'll see what I can do." He looked up, surprised. "You mean that?" "Don't thank me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so I can finally stop thinking about all this." He nodded, eyes glassy. "That's fair." A week later, I called an old contact at a small regional firm, one that took risks on people who'd screwed up but wanted to rebuild. I didn't vouch for Richard. I just gave them his name and said, "He's worth a conversation." That's it. No guarantees, no favors. A few days later, I got a message from him. "Got the interview. They're giving me a shot. I don't deserve it, but thank you." I never replied. I didn't need to. Some stories don't end with fireworks. Some end with silence, the kind that finally feels like peace. Months passed. Life carried on. Tom and I stayed friends, and that next Super Bowl, the Niners actually made it. He called me 2 days before the game. "You still up for that promise?" I laughed. "You serious? Pack your bag. You've earned it this time." When I walked into that stadium, red and gold everywhere, crowd roaring, lights burning like 1,000 suns, I felt something I hadn't in years. Not just excitement, not even victory. Closure. All those years of anger, betrayal, loss, they'd led me right here, to this moment, to a seat that was truly mine. As the national anthem played and fireworks cracked across the sky, I thought about Richard, about Tom, about everything I'd been through. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a victim or a hero. I just felt free. Later that night, as confetti rained down and strangers hugged like old friends, I smiled to myself and whispered, "Worth the wait."